So in our final problem, we will again be finding the period, finding amplitude like we've been practicing on the last 4 or 5 problems. But we'll also look at graphing on our graphing calculator. So I will be opening that up as well to graph. So let's start by finding the period of this first one. So period is your 2 pi over b. So 2 pi over 5. And then I would look to see, is there anything I can do with 2 and 5 to simplify that fraction? Nope. So there's my period, 2 pi over 5. Now, negative 3.5 is my a value. Negative just means it's going to be a reflection. That's about what we've seen on all of our functions. So my amplitude is always going to be the positive version of that number. So my amplitude is 3.5. So this thing's going to start actually at negative 3.5 and then start going up to 0, go up to its highest. Excuse me, it's going to start at 0 still, but it's going to go down first and then up and then finish. So it's just a reflection on my over my x-axis. So let's head to the calculator. So calculator right here, and we're going to put in that equation, so negative 3.5, and sine, and hit 5, and close that off, and then hit my x value. So a little bit of different ways that we have to type that in because it does automatically open up that parentheses. So heading into graph one of these, one thing that we are doing is we're always graphing these in terms of radians. So on your mode, you're going to want to make sure that your calculator is in radian mode. So on your calculator, you should be able to adjust it from radian to degree. You're going to want to make sure that it's radian mode. Okay, then we're going to head in and graph this. And yeah, that's what I thought. So let me change this. So the parentheses, delete that. It should be around the x. So I think 5x needs to be grouped together. There it is. All right, so let me show you that again. So if you're trying that on your calculator, when we have a b value, the b value is going to be grouped with your x value. So you can see on your x value, you do have a theta. So x does represent theta. So use x to represent that theta there. So negative 3.5 sine 5 theta. All right, then we'll head to our graph. And you can see, whoa, we got a lot of stuff happening here. We just want to start looking at one single cycle. To do that, we're going to start adjusting our window. And one of the things that we are going to keep in mind is, actually 2 things, is the amplitude and then the period. So first, the period. We found the period before we even started to graph this on our graphing calculator. That was 2 pi over 5. And we wanted to graph one cycle, so we're going to start our x-axis at 0, and then we're going to put our 2 pi over 5 as our maximum x. So let's go 2 pi, excuse me, 2 pi divided by 5. So I'll zoom that in so you can see what that looks like. So you're just going to adjust that max, x max, to 2 pi over 5. That's going to leave it your window just to go from 0 to 2 pi over 5, which is going to give you just that one cycle. Oops, I know what I'm doing here. Okay, so let me, I got to retype that in. I lost it there. 2 pi divided by 5. It is going to change it to a decimal. That's fine. And then maybe we're going to count by, we'll count by pi over 5 because that's half of 2 pi over 5. All right, that's our scale. And then our y min, y max. So our amplitude is 3.5. So we're going to want to see the tops and the bottom of the curve. So we'll go from -4 to 4 to see a picture. And then, yeah, we'll count by ones. That's fine. Then we hit graph. Let me zoom in before you hit graph on your calculator. So you could pause the video right now if you're watching this on YouTube and copy down this window. X max, remember, was 2 pi over 5, scale pi over 5. Then when you hit graph, there should be our 1 cycle. So you can graph it, you could hit trace, and then you can start finding all of X and Y values if you want to see any of those. So you can see at the very low point here, we're almost to, or there we are, to that negative 3.5. There it is. That's our minimum. Keep tracing. And again, I just hit trace, and then you can start to find X and Y values. All right, we'll take a look at our second problem. So let's head back to the practice problem. So we've got an amplitude of 5 over 2. I'm just going to put that one in first. That one's the easier one to find. And period is going to be 2 pi over b. So 2 pi over 2 is equal to pi. So there's going to be my period. So when I adjust my window, if I want to see 1 cycle, I'm going to use my x max as pi just to see that 1 cycle. Heading back to the calculator, we'll head into the y equals. We'll clear that out. Got to zoom out a little bit. Okay. And we'll type in our function. So fraction here first, 5 halves. So we'll go 5 over 2, which is 2.5, which we'll use when we get to our window. Sine, and then we'll put the b and the theta together. So it's going to be 2 and x. Close that off. Now, if you do hit graph right now, it's going to be our old window. So we're not going to be able to see everything because now our period's a little longer. It's 2 pi the period is pi instead of 2 pi over 5. So we'll head into our window. We're going to adjust. We'll still start at 0. Then we're going to take the x max, we'll make pi. The scale, half of pi is pi over 2, so we'll just make our scale pi over 2. Now we get to our min and our max. Well, the amplitude is 2.5. That's what 5 divided by 2 is. So we'll make our amplitude go from -3 to 3 so we can see the top and the bottom. And we'll count by ones. And there's the graph. There's going to be 1 cycle. And again, if you want to see the window, you could pause it at this position. This is pi. This is pi over 2. When I'm looking at my scale, x max, x scale is pi over 2. So pause your video right there if you want to see that window, and then you should be able to get a graph that looks like so. So in section 13.5, we'll start doing a lot more with our calculator. So this is good practice to set up your windows so that you can see 1 cycle. We'll get to where we can see 2 cycles, 3 cycles, however many we want to see, so we can start to make some calculations. So that wraps up section 13.4. So 13.3 and 13.4 will be due on Sunday evening. So hopefully these videos will help you out.